Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Grid Talk podcast. We're here to talk about the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Not the first, not the second, like AI tell us, but it is like the fourth Las Vegas Grand Prix, but the second in modern history. And as always, we're going to have some friends on the panel. So if I press this button, it should pop up. There we go. We've got Wajid, as always, and becoming part of the furniture, we have Paul as well.
Just a decrepit old man sat in the corner. Hello, guys. How you doing?
I think he's permanently moved in at this point.
I've snuck in the back door. I just part of the like the old uncle that comes over for Christmas and then stays for New Year.
There's so many.
Yeah. Let's not go there. Let's not start. We've upset enough people as it is in the last few weeks. I don't think we need to go down that road.
We can upset a lot more very, very soon. We're not going to go deeply into it right now because obviously we're here for the preview, but we will very quickly mention
the review. We're here for the review, not the
preview.
And the preview.
Qatar's only this weekend.
Yeah, the dates are. We checked the dates this time.
Yeah, we made sure the race was afterwards. General Motors are coming to Formula One. Not Andretti, just General Motors, just Cadillac. No Andretti involved apart from Mario Andretti, who is team director. Michael Andretti is not involved in any kind of way apart from he will come through the back door. It's just what has changed apart from a name above the door that has allowed
one thing. One thing has changed. One thing has changed, guys. One thing has changed. Michael Andretti is no longer at the forefront of this. So what they're basically saying is this, right? We've got a problem with the fact that we don't really want to share our money because there's 10 teams and we don't really want to share the money. We've also got a problem with the fact that you guys aren't very good. We don't think you're actually F1 tier. And we don't want you coming in, messing up F1 and looking terrible at the back. So those are the three reasons we don't want you in F1. So let's analyze what's happened and what's changed since then because, they're still going to have to split the money and they're still going to be the same team because they run out of exactly the same place and they're still worried they might be last. But none of those things matter anymore because Michael Andretti is gone and he was the horrible, mean man that said nasty things about us. So as long as he's not there, we're fine. Come on in.
Okay.
Does that sum it up okay?
I think you probably have, to be honest.
That's how I see it, right? What the hell is going on? I don't care, though, because you know what? They're in, and that's all I ever cared about anyway. Like, just get the 11th team in, get a 12th team in, get a 13th team in. I don't care. More the merrier. Bring them in.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Wajid, what do you see in this? Do you see? I mean, we can talk about what drivers are going to be in it.
But I don't understand what's changed between I think the entry was for either this year or next year in 2026.
The only difference from what I know is because Cadillac weren't coming in till 2028.
Yeah, engine-wise.
Yeah. Then Andretti would be technically coming in as an independent until then. Then they'd have to find...
So it's bullshit, basically.
So there's no guarantee that Cadillac would build that engine, but it's going to anyway.
Bullshit, isn't it?
It's no different. It's literally no different.
Totally bullshit.
It's exactly the same team, the same personnel, the same people that are hiring in the UK right now out of the Andretti factory. Yeah. It's exactly the same thing. It's all going to be operated out at the same places. There is no real difference here other than GM saying, all right, well, okay, we'll put our name on it then. And also, by the way, they're going to pay over 400 million to enter. The actual figure, I think, is something like, I can't remember this off the top of my head, it's like 354 million to enter right now in the current rules. But they're going to pay 450 million because apparently it's going to go up in the next Concord agreement. But that doesn't come into effect until 2026 anyway. But either way, they're paying an awful lot of money. Like, I remember back in the days, back in the late 80s, early 90s, Bernie Eccleston used to charge teams 19 million to get into F1, which seemed like a lot of money back then. 450 million for a spot on the grid. And all of that money, by the way, gets split between the 10 teams that are currently involved.
Yeah, because that was the general gist of it, wasn't it? It was all down to money.
That's what they complained it was about, but then it wasn't.
I seriously think a lot of it could be to do with, obviously, Andretti would come along and poach staff as well. And
They're still doing that now.
Like
If you
every,
remember
like
Andre-
every other team does.
Yeah, but if you remember
Yeah.
Andretti came into IndyCar and people like, okay, well, he's teamed up with, it was Kim Green, I think he teamed up with. So it was Andretti Green Racing, and then he brought out Green, and he was running 4 cars. And apart from the last few years, they've really been at the forefront of IndyCar. And I think this is kind of similar to if Chip Ganassi said, I'm coming across. It's like, no, you better bring more than just your name because you might actually beat us. That's what I think it is. And, you know, we've seen many people sort of going, oh, this means we're going to have Alex Palau and not Brian Herter, I was going back too far.
Colton
Colton Herter in the car. It's like, or maybe Andretti will just use his common sense and pick drivers who have got some F1 and European experience. Like Colton Herter, I don't think he's been here since MSA Formula, maybe. You know, he really hasn't been in Europe for a long time.
Doesn't matter. He's a good driver. I want him in F1.
I mean, the thing is, even if he's not quote unquote F1 pedigree, have you seen some of the shit we've had on the grid recently? Anyway, like who are the other teams to judge who can drive and can't drive?
Agreed.
Sergio Perez has still got to drive a Red Bull. All three of us. All three of us.
Early.
No, but all three of us could do a better job than currently Checo Perez is only doing. By the way, the only driver in the top 4 teams that hasn't got one race win this year. Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to get
all the other drivers, by the way, first time in history that
7 of 1
drivers have all had multiple wins in a season. It's incredible.
Yeah. There is actually one more thing about Sergio Perez, which I will get onto when we get into that stage. So we'll hold fire on that. But yeah, obviously a new team coming in. It's good news. I'm not going to hold my breath for a bit like Audi. I'm not going to hold my breath for General Motors are going to come along with a Cadillac engine. You know, we'll see how the world turns by 2028. But now, the bit you've all been waiting for, Las Vegas. I was going to put on my Elvis suit for this, but I realised I don't have one. So if you have not seen the results of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, for a start, where have you been? Because it was on Sunday morning. You've had plenty of time. And 2, why watch the review show? There it is. Spoiler. George Russell taking victory from Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz. If you'd seen qualifying and then you saw that result, yes, it did actually happen. But we've got to start, obviously, in the one place, which is actually back in 5th place. The 3rd driver in succession to take 5th place to win a championship while in Las Vegas.
Yep. Keke Rosberg last one.
Thank you, Sean.
And Nelson Piquet the one before that.
Yeah, ironically, Nelson Piquet.
Yeah. Because now Kelly Piquet now has 7 titles, by the way. Think about it.
No, I've got
Kelly Piquet actually
there's
beat
other
Lewis
comments
Hamilton.
going on in my head, and I'm not going to say.
Kelly Piquet actually has 7 titles.
I am not going down that rabbit hole.
I'm not going down that road.
chance.
No, we're only
Her
8
dad's
minutes
got
in. We
3.
don't want to get cancelled.
Hubby's got 4. That's 7. She's
I'm
only
not
one away
going-
from
No,
being
no.
Lewis. Right.
No, we're not going down the same route you're going down. You're not going to get there.
Not today. Not today.
Yeah, and to be fair, if you think about it with Max, you know, we know that the next one down the line is still not going to be successful, because if you look at Nelson and then Nelson Piquet Jr., not quite so successful. Jos wasn't very good. Max was. So the next one down the line technically shouldn't be very good.
I mean, Max is generational.
But then again,
good.
Graham Hill, Damon Hill, Nico Rosberg, Keke Rosberg, they seem to be all right.
I mean, Damon Hill
Didn't skip
wasn't.
any generations there.
Damon Hill wasn't great.
No, I'll give you that, but he still won a world title.
yeah. Anyway,
I mean,
Max
even
he still won a world title.
I'll be honest, even the Rosberg one is eyebrow raising given how
Yeah,
that played
I
out.
agree.
But anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Different show.
as
Maybe
Max
on the
says,
Christmas podcast, lads, eh?
oh, trust me, I've got a list starting over here which you can't see of many things. Maybe that will go into our new category. If you remember Room 101, we will be doing some podcasts based on that at some point. But yeah, 4 world titles in a row. I believe one day shorter than the time it took Sebastian Vettel.
I think it was one. I think Seb's was like 1,078 and Max was 1,077.
Yeah, I mean it's still 4 seasons, isn't it? It's just Max's was a super long season. Could we say it was more competitive in 2013? Yeah, we probably could do as well. So
I mean, you can also say Seb's first.
Well.
Yeah, I was literally going to say Seb's first one as well.
Yeah. I mean, 3 people could have won that title down to.
Be honest, Seb's. Well, I think.
No,
don't get me wrong.
Lewis could have won it if.
Yeah, Lewis had to win with them.
Lewis had to win, and everyone else had to like find the shadow.
Yeah, mathematically, there were three drivers still involved. So
yeah.
I would say two of his 4 were pretty competitive, and the third one wasn't that competitive, but he still had to do it. He only had one walkover season, and Max has only really had one walkover season too. He still had to overcome Ferrari in 22. 23 it was obviously a walkover, best car by a long way. Don't care what anyone says. And his first one was obviously a massively competitive one against Lewis. So
which
we don't talk about. Yeah, you can still say that Max has had. I think Max has had it harder, and it's been more competitive for Max over the period of the 4 championships.
I think what you've got to remember as well is going back to the Vettel championships, it was a car that completely. I mean, the car does suit Verstappen, but the car, the blown diffuser, it was something Webber could get his head around some of the time or whatever. But then, this team is fully Max. Webber had a chance at winning races and titles and stuff.
Webber went into the last race with a shot at a title when he was alongside Vettel, don't forget.
Yeah, exactly.
And Perez has never had that.
Well, Perez doesn't know what a world title is.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was challenged a little bit earlier this week. I said that I thought this title, didn't come with an asterisk on it in the same way that maybe the first one did, obviously, through no fault of Max's. Leave that aside. We can all argue one way or the other on that, but we can also, I think we can agree that it wasn't Max's fault. He just drove the race he was supposed to drive and he won a title. Second year, he didn't have the best car for the first 5-6 races. Ferrari had the best car. So he had to work with his team to get that back on track, which they did. And eventually they won the title, and I think that was fine. There was also the cost cap row, and they shouldn't have spent the money they spent. Yeah. Okay, fine. So that has an asterisk on it as well. 23 has no asterisk on it, other than the fact that now they're saying they may have had this trick thing on the car all season. So now that's one's got a little star by it as well. This season is the one for me, which says he is a generational talent. No matter who you support, no matter who you are vociferous about in your love of as a Formula One driver, if you can put all of that aside and look at just how well he's driven this season, there is an argument, I think, to be made that he has made no mistakes this season. He's had a couple of really good battles with drivers, Lando included, and he has maximised the results he's been able to get from a car which has sometimes been the 4th best car on the grid. And in doing so, has won a title with 2 races to go against a group of drivers who are all very, very competitive. Now, arguably, because they're all very competitive, that's made it easier for him to win because obviously they're taking points away from each other. Yeah. So there is that argument. I understand that. But overall, if you look at it, and someone said to me, but if the championship had started in Imola, he would have lost already. No. He'd still be 3 points ahead. Keep that in your mind for a moment. Into perspective, he would have won only 2 races in that entire time. Charles Leclerc's won 3, Russell won 3 on the road, Lando's won 3, Lewis has won 2, and Piastri's won 2. And yet he would still have 260 points, 3 more than Lando, and over 80 more than Carlos Sainz. He has driven an incredible season in a car which, for the majority, 4/5 of the season, has not been the fastest car. And so when you look at all of the averages as well, his average qualifying position is still better than any other driver over the entire 22 races we've had. He's still qualified higher on average than anyone else, including people that supposedly have had the fastest car in F1. I think we have to give credit where it's due. I'm not the biggest Verstappen fan. Don't particularly like his attitude. Don't like his little whiny bollocks on the radio. But I think as a generational talent, he is this generation's talent. And he's the man that everyone's going to aim for. I don't necessarily think he can come back next year and win because I think next year will be just as competitive as the last 14 races have been this season. And then who knows, right? Maybe he wins a 5th. But it's going to be a lot tougher to do that next season based on the fact that we're pretty much expecting them all to be even closer than they are this year. So I think we have to just take a pause, and admit that Max has driven an exemplary season and has delivered all of the results that he could deliver in the car that he's been given every time?
Dave, you go next.
I would agree with 90% of that. I wouldn't say it's exemplary. I would say Mexico was very, very questionable with what he had to pull off there, because I think what happened in Mexico was quite important to him, stalling the momentum Norris had. I've been adamant that the championship could go down to a wire and would be a championship challenge as such, even though the gap's been quite big. I just think in Mexico, that little bit of dark arts, or whatever you want to call it, I mean, it's pretty dangerous for the second one, but just delayed the momentum of Lando Norris at that stage, because he would have probably, dare I say it, maybe gone on to win that race if he got through and not been delayed and things like that. So there's a chance there. That would have been 7 points more. You're looking at a different turn of the tide. I'm just trying to have a look now if that is the case. So that would have been then to Brazil, which obviously, if we'd seen a dry race there, not a wet race, I don't think we would have seen Max
all of these are
winning
ifs, David. I hate to
Oh,
interrupt.
I get it.
All of these are. What I'm saying is, in terms of maximising his results and delivering what he could deliver from the car he was given, it was exemplary. And I don't think anyone can argue with that. You can say his racing wasn't exemplary because he took Lando out, or he tried to take him out in Austria and then he tried to get him in. I get that. I'm not talking about the dark arts. I'm not talking about how well he raced against Lando. I'm talking about, did he maximise the results he could get out of the car that he was given every race? And the answer is he did.
Yeah. But as I say, apart from Mexico, because I think he could have finished higher because he had the Ocon-sized penalty. I think also, like, a lot of people have been very critical of Lewis in the press conference, saying, well, can Max win another title? Yeah, he can if he turns up at the first race with a second half quicker car. I think we can all hold our hands up in the first 5 races and go, we did not even see this game this far. I know people went, oh, well, yeah, Vegas, Lando. Yeah, but Sykes won in Australia when Max retired. We thought this car is just gone again.
Sorry, and Australia, people weren't going, Max isn't going to win.
Yeah.
People fully believed Max was going to sprint off into the distance. And here we go again. I've sort of heard what everything said. I think if there was any ever doubt of Max's sort of ability, anything like that, I think Brazil shut a lot of people up, because I think a lot of people forgot, because Max has been in the Lewis Schumacher sort of a lot. Seb, the car just does everything and he blah blah blah. That drive sort of represented. Yeah, there's levels to this. I'm an upper echelon driver, and Brazil cemented that. In terms of the challenge, yeah, sort of been there. I've made my opinion very, very clear on Lando Norris. He's run his mouth way too much, hasn't delivered when he's needed to, and there's a lot of if buts and maybes. At the end of the day, he's not been good enough. Max has been systematic, like Terminator assassin, which is he has still managed to drag the best result out of that car. And popped up results. He's just like, how the hell have you ended up here? Even when he's not, even when it's been maybe the 3rd fastest car at some points in the time. McLaren, roughly on average, majority of the races since Miami have had either the first or the second quickest car when they've shown up, and whether it's been a mistake by the team, a mistake by Lando, or not just genuinely not executing, Max has somehow managed to hold a 60, a 45, 50-point lead, which he's had no right to hold on to. Absolutely no right whatsoever. So, and people, sort of looking to next year, people are talking about, oh, well, we'll have 4 teams challenging, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't work like that
Yeah.
at all.
Well, we thought we were going to have it this year. McLaren looked like they were dominant at the end of last year.
And it doesn't work like that just because you have a very, very good car this year. Yes, the regulations aren't changing, mate. Doesn't mean the teams aren't making improvements next year. And
I think it's different though, Wajid, because we're heading into a complete rule change in 26, so the focus is very much on that. And they've all learned the tricks of this floor now. They all understand how to make this floor work. So
except Mercedes.
Well, or except Sauber. But I generally, if you look historically, and I've got a lot of evidence historically that will point to this, at the end of every rule change, usually after every 7 years, because it's how long the Concord agreements used to be, the last year before the rules change has always historically been the closest. And you can go back and look at all of these all the way through. It's really interesting, actually, to study that and see why they've all closed up. And it's basically because the rules have been steady for so long, and there's only a finite amount of improvement they can make over a period of 7 years. We've had a shorter rule span this time. We've only had a 4-year span and obviously a fifth next year before they change. But the fact that they've all closed up this year, during the year, at one point we had 7 tenths between first and 20th on the grid, which is astonishing, really. 7 tenths used to be the gap between first and second, for crying out loud, not all that long ago. So I think I agree with you. It doesn't always necessarily mean because McLaren are fast now, they're going to be fast next season, or that Ferrari are going to be fast next season. But I think, generally speaking, I would expect the same 4 teams to come back next season and all be quick. And then the first few races, who knows, maybe one of them's got a better advantage than the others. But I think it will be quite close next season.
And I also think, the other thing I was going to add, there's a certain man going from the 4th quickest car to potentially the 2nd quickest car on the grid next year. And I think there's been, regardless of how you feel, how he's done qualifying, I think the general consensus has been this year, if you put that man in the McLaren this year, you have a world title fight. And
yeah,
I'm cautiously optimistic that we may get a relive of 2021, and if we do, I'm totally here for part 2.
Yep, me too. Although I would again caution that a little bit in that he's down 14-7 to George this year over 21 races.
No, like I said, cautious optimism.
I mean, it's quite easy when you do the testing for half a year to be 14-7.
I mean, he was doing the testing in Vegas.
I mean, like I say, Max has been absolutely flying. Like you say, he hasn't. People forget from Austria. I mean, let's have a look very quickly. Bahrain, he won. Saudi, he won. Australia, obviously retired. Japan, he won. China, he won. 2nd in Miami. Probably 1st if the safety car hadn't worked out for Lando.
Yep.
1st in Imola. Monaco was an off day. You get him. Canada, he won. Spain, he won. Austria potentially could have won. 2nd in Britain. So while we say he's been off, car's been off.
And in Silverstone, that car was absolutely nowhere for 2/3 of the race. And then the last stint, it just came alive. But that car was absolutely nowhere. He had no right to finish that race. And he nearly won. I think he was only like a 2.5 by the time. If it was one more lap, he wins that as well.
Exactly. So it's a really interesting, it's short memories for some that actually, Red Bull's been so slow this year. Actually, it's just not been dominant, as we say. I think there's been a lot of diva cars this year, shall we say. The Ferrari went missing for a couple of rounds. The McLaren goes missing for a couple of rounds. Mercedes definitely goes missing.
I think this comes back to the floor issue again, because it seems like Ferrari, McLaren less so, Red Bull less so, but Ferrari and Mercedes in particular seem to have what we would call knife-edge cars. They are great, but in a very narrow set of performance windows. For instance, when it's cold and when the deg's high, like that combination seems to be like, oh, Mercedes just works, man. It's brilliant. Like, we have no deg and we've got perfect tyre temps and the car's amazing. Like Lewis said, the car is better than it has ever been all season, and I have no idea why. Yeah. And the only thing you could look back and you see is temperatures and deg. So
it's a shame they're going to the Middle East to fit it into the hottest
well, yeah,
places.
exactly. I can't see any cold weather or rain coming there, can we? But that said, they did quite well in Qatar last season. So, I don't know. They won that pace at least last year, I remember.
Yeah, I mean...
Did they not get pole and second in the sprint?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Lewis was taken out 2-1, so we did have some pace there.
Yeah.
It's definitely a like they're saying, oh, we haven't got a clue, we haven't got a clue. Green track. Yeah. Whenever Mercedes Fridays, pretty quick, then release pace on Saturdays. If it rains overnight, suddenly they get pace.
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm saying.
That car just likes a green track. I don't know why.
It likes no grip, and then it has grip. Whereas the other cars are like, we've literally got no grip and the car don't work. And we've got no heat in the tyres because we've got no grip. And yet the Mercedes seems to operate on the basis that it doesn't need any grip and it can still grip up. So, yeah, I don't know. They're all like that a bit. Red Bull's had a couple of races, like Wajid was saying in Silverstone, very similar. During the race, it literally went from not a very good car to actually, Jesus Christ, that's a rocket ship. Ferrari have had very similar results where they've gone to some tracks and just gone, wow, no one's going to beat them if they carry on like this. And then the next race, they've looked awful again. And McLaren, less so, but have still looked quite poor. I think it's fascinating for me. We've had the last 16 races, which used to be the average length of a Formula One season, right? In the last 16 races, McLaren have won just 4. That's not good enough for a team. Like Wajid was saying earlier, I'm harping on the same thing, I guess, but it's just not good enough if you want to compete at the World Championship, is it?
I mean, we'll get onto McLaren very shortly. In terms of Red Bull, though, Max has made it 4. We've spoke about Max. We've got to, there is an elephant in the room still, a very big Mexican elephant. Sergio Perez. Apart from Baku, let me just throw some things at you. Let me just have a look here. So since he finished on the podium in China, he's been 4th in Miami, 8th in Imola, retired, then 8th in Spain, 7th in Austria, 17th Britain, 7th, 6th, 8th, 17th, 10th, 7th, 17th, 11th, and 10th in a car that went and won the Drivers' World Championship. I don't care if you're sponsored by Kit Kat. It's just, we've already mentioned he hasn't got a victory this season. He's 54 points off Lewis Hamilton, who's basically been testing setups all season. He's
251 points off his teammate.
I think, off the top of my head, you'll probably have to help me with this. The last teammate to not win a race when the Drivers' World Champion is in the same team, I'm going back to possibly 94.
Correct, sir.
Schumacher. Jos Verstappen.
And it was
JJ Leto.
His dad. Yeah.
Verstappen, Leto, and Herbert were all teammates to Schumacher in that turn. I did think there might be one with Fisichella in 2005, but I don't know if he would have raced there.
No, he did.
He did. That's fine.
The worst teammates. If you go back in time, so in modern times, the worst performance by a teammate of a winning champion car was Kovalainen in 2008. He was 7th in the title championship, but he did win a race.
He luckily got a win.
Yeah, Fisichella was 5th.
He stole a win.
He did steal it. Fisichella was 5th in 2005 when Alonso won. But before that, Jos Verstappen finished 10th in the title. He didn't have a full season, mind you. He missed out on 3 races, but still. He finished 10th in the title championship without winning a race. That was 94. But he isn't the worst teammate.
Verstappen was never meant to be the teammate.
Well, no, he was meant to be JJ Leto. He wasn't even meant to be in F1 that season, exactly. Yeah. He was meant to be Leto. He's not the worst, though. Lauda finished 10th to Prost in 1985 as the defending champion. That's the worst of a world champion coming back in the same team and then your teammate being world champion. Patrese was 9th in 83 when PK won it. Derek 79. Daly holds the record, though. Derek Daly finished 13th to Keke Rosberg's championship winning in 1982. Very weird year. But there are 2 seasons where the champion who has won, his teammates didn't score a single point.
79 is one of them.
No, 79 wasn't. It was Villeneuve. 72, Fittipaldi. None of his teammates scored. He had 4 different teammates that season. None of them scored a point. Jim Clark in 1963, also in the Lotus. None of his teammates scored a point. So technically, those 2 are the best ever. So Perez can't do any worse than that, but it will be if he finishes 8th, which we think he will. In fact, technically, mathematically, he can't actually finish any higher now. It will be the worst performance by a teammate since Jos Verstappen in
he can finish higher. It's a sprint race.
Oh, because we've got a sprint race as well, haven't we? Yeah. So he needs to win. We need to win the sprint
Needs
and
to
both
win
races.
both.
He needs to win the sprint and both races, and for Lewis to end up in the shadow realm.
Which, to be honest, no Mercedes, that might actually happen. But yeah, I mean,
50, he'd be on 56 points. He can't even overtake him. He'd match him because Lewis would.
No, because it's eight. It's
Is
eight.
It's 8 for a win.
Oh,
Points
eight
the
for a
fastest
win.
lap.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry. No, so,
yeah, so you could get 34 from one and 26 from the other. So you get 60 points.
So you get 60. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah.
You get 60. Yeah.
So he could pass him by 4 points.
Yeah, as long as Lewis doesn't turn up for any of those 3 races.
Yeah.
So he's going to finish 8th, isn't he? So
we have.
So yes,
got
it's the worst performance since 1994 when Jos Verstappen finished 10th in the championship to the champions winning. So it's an astonishingly bad.
I'm going to
performance
tell
in
you, I
modern
was
terms as
really
well.
sad to be sitting. I didn't even check that. I was like sitting in bed thinking, "Oh, I wonder what it was," and guessed at 94 because I knew they'd only got probably one podium between them. But yeah, we'll.
But hey,
digress slightly.
Look at the bright side, though. At least he's not Derek Daly.
Now, what we're hearing with Sergio Perez is that his future will be decided after Abu Dhabi, which sounds kind of ominous because we know what Red Bull are like with retiring drivers and not actually telling them they're going to be retiring in the last race. There is a strange rumor, that actually in the movie released by Brad Pitt, the rival is Sergio Perez, which is why he can't be dropped from Formula One. So there's a bit of discussion about that one. I don't believe that's true. Because
that'd be insane.
For a start, why would you make Sergio Perez the rival? But secondly, he's got to go, hasn't he? Unless he does something miraculous in the next 2 races. Wajid?
There's nothing. Sorry. There's nothing that can change it. There is right. This season has been pathetic. It does not matter. He could win in Qatar by 2 minutes. Yeah, lap everyone 4 times, whatever. It's done. It's done. Like that Red Bull second seat is just a poison chalice at this point. It's done. Get over it. Because to go fly further ahead, since Colapinto got linked to the seat, he's found everything except the tarmac. He's found the wall, the tire barrier. He's like there's more bits of his car in London than there currently is in America. Lawson, since he's had any link to the seat, he's been tasting Tsunoda's dust for I know, like he's just fallen off a cliff on his second hurdle. That any mention of any link to that second seat, it is just death at this moment. It is Formula One death at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Checo, you've had a good run. You had a great run. You got your couple of wins. Evan will remember Sakia and all that. Great times, mate. Just take the horse to the back of the barn at this point. It's just really sad at this point. Like every single driver of the top 4, like being utterly clear in position 1 to 7, and Lewis started in 10th. Yeah, you start 16th. Lewis started 10th, right? He's finished second this race. What's your excuse this time round? It's just sad at this point. Sorry to cut you off, Paul.
No, it's fine. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else you say really. I think just lack of options is one of the reasons that he's still in that Red Bull. I don't think they've had anyone quite ready to jump up into that seat from the Red Bull Junior categories, whether it be from the RB team, whether it be from outside the RB team or Formula 2. I don't think there's anyone there that's ready for that. I think for next season, there is an obvious candidate for them. I don't think he's even spoken to them because I don't think he's particularly their favourite person, but there is an obvious person. And this has shades of back what happened in 2020. If you think about when Racing Point got taken over by Aston Martin and Stroll said he was going to sign a world champion. He was very bold about that right up front, and he did. He signed Sebastian Vettel, and he brought Vettel in, and then we sat there going, well, hold on, if he's got Vettel and his son's in the other car, where the hell does Perez go? That's a bit harsh. And at the end of that season, Sergio Perez actually had no drive in F1. And what happened was Christian Horner thought, do you know what? Actually, he would be a really good number 2 for Max. And so they brought him to Red Bull. First time they've gone outside of the Red Bull family since the very beginning of the team when they brought Coulthard and Webber in. So it was an unusual move, but it sort of worked out for 2.5, 3 seasons. So why don't they go and get Bottas now, who's in exactly the same position, literally doesn't have a drive next season, has no hope of getting anything else. He's also a much better, more reliable number 2 than Perez has ever been. Like, he held a candle to Lewis. He won pole positions. He won 10 races. He can actually do a really good job for Red Bull next season. I've been saying this all season long for him. And now he's actually genuinely out of contract and a free agent. So they pick him up for next to nothing. So they save a ton of money and they bring in a better driver who's exactly in the same position that Perez was in 4 years ago.
I could say then
Am I mad? Doesn't that make perfectly good sense to me?
It could, but you're also bringing in the driver who's 23rd behind Logan Sargent.
Of course, and also bringing in a driver that historically has taken out Red Bulls and
no disrespect to Valtteri, but his kind of attitude
his stock has dropped
this season. I think his mind's out the door kind of thing. Yeah, and I'm just looking at just very quickly through with.
But who else do they get, David, though? That's the problem, isn't it?
That's why I'm looking at F2, because we have a load.
Hadjar in there.
No, let's not do that.
Hang on, because F2 changes a lot this weekend. There's a huge amount of changes.
There are many changes.
Zane Maloney comes out of Dams. That's
because he's gone Formula E.
Bortoletto.
No,
he hasn't gone to Dams. No. Rodin. I've got to get this right because it is a pain in the backside how many changes they got for this weekend.
Yes.
Because they've just announced another one, which is John Bennett coming in.
Yes, John Bennett's coming in. And
right, here we go. So we've got Mini should still be in. Mini won't be in Prema because Behrman will be back. So it's Behrman and Antonelli. Zane Maloney has been replaced by Leonardo Fornaroli, the F3 champion.
Yep.
That was a random one suddenly done. Bogdanovic goes to Dams instead of Correa.
Correct.
That also, just to say with Maloney, that takes him away because he's going to Formula E, takes him away from any Audi, Sauber links. For the Shaw takes over for Dennis Hauger. Dennis Hauger being an ex-Red Bull driver. He's going off to an Indy next with Andretti. Yep. That leaves for Shaw to go back there. John Bennett will take over from. Okay, this is weird because this tells
Van Amersfoort.
Yeah, taking over from Enzo Fittipaldi apparently.
Yes. Yeah,
so
I think Enzo is going to end up in IndyCar.
Okay. Yeah. But still, that is another Red Bull driver dropping out of F2.
Well, no, but he's not Red Bull anymore. He hasn't been Red Bull all season. He's got funding from them, but he's not part of the Red Bull Junior. Okay. So he got dropped. Yeah, he got dropped last year.
Max Esterson drops in for Richard Verschoor. Mansell continues for Stanek.
Yeah.
And everybody's favourite man, Niels Koolen, is replaced by Kian Shields.
Yay!
Which
proper driver, thank God.
Yeah. But that does eliminate some of the people in F2 who have Red Bull connections.
Red Bull connections, but not strictly who they are. There's only 2 in F2 right now. Pepe Marti, who is a full Red Bull junior, and Isaac Hadjar. And Isaac Hadjar won't drop out of F2 this season because he's still got a shot at the title against Bortoletto. But I don't, Hadjar has been better than I thought he would be this season in F2, but he's not the standout driver. Why do you think that the half the grid has gone to F1 and he's not one of them? Bortoletto's managed to step up in one season, by the way. He's done one season of F2, not even a complete one yet. He's moved on. Zane Maloney's gone to a really good Formula E team. Like, they've literally snapped him up before he could be done with the season. We've got Colapinto obviously making debut this season. Yeah. Beerman's going to have a race next season. Like, there are drivers. Antonelli's another one. There are drivers behind Hadjar in the championship, a long way behind him, who have been snapped up by teams in higher formulas already, and no one's coming for Hadjar. So why would Red Bull do it?
I think the Red Bull links obviously don't help that because because the Red Bull Academy are very much of, yes, they rush people in, but they never see, like it would do Hajar a world of good to take a championship. Because his last one is only 2021 in Formula Renault Europe. He hasn't got another championship, whereas he's now gone on a bad run. Let's say since Hungary, he's got 3rd, 18th, 9th, 1st, 10th, 11th, 12th, 14th. He's proving that he needs to wake up.
He's proving he's not. No, he's proving he's not good enough.
Well,
they're not the results of a junior Red Bull driver that's ready to move up into F1.
I mean, it shows a lot that Zane Maloney isn't even going to come and do the last 2 rounds. He's 3rd in the championship.
Yeah.
Antonelli's pretty much given up from. He's 6th. He's got his driver. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This is literally Bortoletto or Hajar. Maybe Paul Aron, but he's had too many.
Aaron's still not won a race.
Yeah, still not won a race. Yeah, and that reminds me very much of like a Yuri Vips in terms of a driver. A driver you're not going
good, nice and steady,
make it.
Brings the car home, gets some regular results, but isn't actually very quick. It's a common thing that's been aimed at Paul Aron since he was in Freca, losing to Dino Beganovic, by the way.
I think that's why you're seeing. Colapinto linked with this seat, but who knows? We're going to move on because we haven't actually even mentioned the winner of the Grand Prix.
No. We're not moving on. You need to say something. You need to do something.
What?
You need to apologize for your bullshit.
I have said there's going to be a championship challenge. There was a championship challenge.
There was no.
No.
Wajid,
what did he say? He said it's going to go down to the wire. Was what he actually said.
I thought it was.
Okay,
Look,
so
I had to make sure
that
people. I had to make sure that people were going to tune in if we had a watch along because it went to the final race.
Yeah, and now there hasn't. The floor's yours.
Yeah, I'm not going to apologise, and I'll tell you why when we get to McLaren.
Rude.
I'll tell you why when we get to McLaren.
Okay.
But Max, congratulations on your
congratulations on your 4th and last title because we all saw what happened to Sebastian Vettel in 2013.
Could I also just add one last thing to the Max Verstappen thing?
Yes.
Deserto website. They led with the headline on Sunday morning, which said, "Sim racer Max Verstappen wins F1 World Championship," which I thought was brilliant. Sorry, Twitch streamer. Twitch streamer wins F1 World Championship.
He hasn't actually got Twitch.
He doesn't actually do Twitch, but it was funny anyway. I thought it was really good.
I don't know if this is real, but thank you for follow Nolan Siegel. Now, if that's Nolan Siegel, American IndyCar star,
good job, Nolan.
Thank you.
Come see me. I'll do your paint.
I will also say that it was only created on November the 22nd as a profile, so I'm not calling you out. I'm hoping you're the real thing, but if not, oh well, we'll take it.
And if you are, given the quality of IndyCar drivers, can you stick me in the car next year? Just saying.
To be fair, Nolan is very young and is definitely a talent who can make it in IndyCar. And I'm not just saying that because he's pressed follow.
Just saying.
Right. We'll move on.
If Grosjean can walk into your league like that, then you're saying something. Anyway, go on.
Well, actually, we'll throw this out there. Nolan, I think, should be in McLaren Arrow next year. Which, if he is, great chance to move forward with that, especially with this Andretti move up. But anyway,
let's move on.
Mercedes strike it lucky. We said about the green track. We're not going to digress anymore. This is about George Russell has won. Only 44 minutes into the podcast, has won the Las Vegas Grand Prix. That must be a new record.
Well, congrats, well done, George.
What a drive. Mistakes.
The thing is, do you know the amount of attention we're giving George Russell is the same amount of attention all of F1 is giving George Russell for this race win. No one gave a shit.
I've got to tell you,
it's a shame though because he drove brilliantly. Well,
he did
brilliantly.
He was faultless. He was faultless all weekend.
It was unbelievable the whole week. Qualifying, Lewis throws it all away, and he literally laser focused on getting that pole position, got it, and then leads every lap of a race, controlled it perfectly from start to finish. It's one of the best drives of the season by any driver, and we're literally not going to talk about it.
No one cares.
Yeah, nobody cares.
I've got to say the one thing about it, and that's in terms of the whole situation, and that is that yes, George drove really well, absolutely did, and deserved the win. But Lewis Hamilton was damn right. If he hadn't screwed up qualifying, which was 2 mistakes, if I remember rightly,
on
2 mistakes
on both laps,
on both his laps. Finishing 7.3 seconds behind, and it was closer than that. I think it got down to about 4.6. Yeah. And what I don't get is George come out of pits, and at no point did he push his tyres like Mercedes knew he could, because Lewis had just done it and they weren't going off. You know, Lewis had set as many fastest laps in that race as George had laps to go. You know, it was just crazy. He was just flinging them out left, right, and centre. And it was great to see. Yes, okay, Max was going, and we forgot to mention this, and absolutely, you know, he put himself in a position where he didn't have to fight anything on Sunday morning. He just had to sit there and go, yeah, go on, you're quicker, off you go. I've never seen him let Lewis Hamilton pass so easily.
Oh, I thought the radio message, which was about a minute delay, but I thought the radio message from GP was amazing because it literally said, remember what we talked about.
Yeah.
It was like a reminder to Max, don't fight him. You don't need to fight him. We know you want to fight him, but don't fight him. And Max went, yeah, I'm just doing my own race. I know what I've got to do. And I thought that was a big moment for me in terms of maturity for him.
I think he put a visor. Why have we got Ollie Behrman finishing 12th?
Oh, I forgot to change it to K-Mag. Sorry.
That's all right. That's been
another strike from K-Mag.
Anyway, in terms of Mercedes,
I just wasn't paying attention.
Absolutely dominant drive in terms of George Russell. It would have been good, I think, if we got both Mercedes on front row, see what would have really happened. I think you would have seen a lot more tyre chewing by George and dropping back, and because we know what he's like when Lewis gets anywhere near him. And I've just got, we've said, well done, George. I've got to say, Lewis Hamilton, that is why everyone is so excited about seeing him in a Ferrari next year, because he's realised the tyres weren't going to burn up, and he just went for it, Wajid.
I think it's also like, since you and I recorded every show this year, Paul, since he joined us, there's a reason why people give George Russell a side eye in this combination. I mean, Paul mentioned it's I think 14-7 in the race. In race, it's like 16, I think 16-5 in qualifying or whatever it is. But there's a reason everyone gives George Russell a side eye when it comes to this conversation, and that is no matter how far Lewis Hamilton ends up behind George Russell, he somehow ends up 5 to 8 seconds consistently behind, and he spends half the weekend testing out Mercedes' new IBM processing systems. He's like, he's like, I need the new V7s in the supercomputer, guys. Oh, we're moving to the cloud system this week. He's sat like that's all he's done for half the season, and it's just it just constantly feels like George Russell is overshadowed by what Lewis Hamilton does in a weekend, rightly or wrongly. And this is probably George Russell's best drive in a Mercedes since he's been in a Mercedes.
I'd say his best drive since his debut for Mercedes.
That's what I said.
But when he didn't quite fit in it, when he replaced Lewis.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. But lights to flag, he did what he had to do in qualifying. Lewis didn't do the job. And bear in mind, Lewis didn't start overtaking people till lap 9, where he went, oh, there's a lot more pace in this car than I thought as well. And then all of a sudden started picking everyone off like an F1 lobby. How are you only finishing 7.5 seconds up the road? And it just, there is something in the back of my head that is just like, there's question marks about his leadership credentials for me. There's question marks about him as a number one driver for me. I hope he fixes that next year, but we'll see. And I feel like I'm nitpicking because it was an amazing drive. He literally did what he had to do. Controlled it, just comfortable. I think that there was the slight challenge he had with Leclerc when Leclerc decided to, burn his tires through hell.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, how are you only finishing 7 seconds up the road?
I've got to say this as well about George. Like, he is very quick. He is very good. He's exceptional drive. But Paul, it reminds me very much of kind of his F2 races. Kind of a bit dull. He wasn't like the massive overtaker in F2. He won from the front and then just got his points when it reversed grid and things like that. I don't know. It's like his interviews as well. They just seem very just
flat.
I don't know. It doesn't see unless he gets angry.
He as a junior driver in the junior formulas was never an Ayrton Senna or a Lewis Hamilton or an Oscar Piastri even necessarily. He's never spectacular. He always seemed to be able to drive enough to win. And you know what? What he reminds me of in that respect is probably more of an Alain Prost type guy, more of a Sebastian Vettel kind of guy, a guy that can lead from the front and can drive an absolutely immaculate race, can cope with the pressures of that on him, manage the gap, manage the tyres. That all seems really kind of sciencey to him. And it seems like, Prost was called the professor for a reason. That's how he drove, right? And Russell reminds me a lot of him in that respect. And also Vettel in a similar way to the way that he would lead a race and burn off into the distance. And he could do that very well. But you put him back in the pack and ask him to race and mix it up a bit, wasn't always quite so consistent anymore. And I think George is very much of that ilk. I don't think he is let's be honest, George is not a generational talent of a driver. He's not a Verstappen. He's not a Schumacher. He's not a Senna. But he is very good. And I think he can still become world champion in the right circumstances. I think next year is a good test for him. And you put Antonelli, who is potentially the next generational talent in the car with him. And we'll see how he gets on. I think he'll do well. I think the team leader role, he's kind of grown into it a bit more this season because they knew that Lewis was leaving. So I think this race is a perfect example of how good he is.
Just quickly. I'm sorry. I'm going to push back on that team leader role when it's been Lewis that's been doing all the testing and setups, and he just sat back chilling.
No. Other aspects are around leadership. It's not about who does most testing. It's about who pulls the team around them, who communicates better, and what have you. And he's done that a lot better this year than he did the year before, the year before that. So overall, I think his growth has been good. He's a race winner. He's a multiple race winner now, and I think he'll do okay. But I don't think he's not a Senna or a Schumacher. But he's got a world championship in him in the right circumstances for sure.
Yeah,
I don't think we should rule him out just because he's really boring to watch and boring to win.
No, I'm not
saying
right? I'm not saying
as well. Fittipaldi was before that. Scheckter was before that.
I'm not saying any of
that.
I would say, and dare I probably get bitten off by people's heads with this one. George Russell was amazing in karts. In the junior formula, like you said, did what he had to do. I just feel he's gonna have to be waiting around for that Jensen Button moment where you get a brawn,
for sure,
or something like that.
I would agree with that.
And that's why we previously said it, Wajid. This has to be next season is a huge job interview for George Russell. That's basically the long and short of it. It's a huge job thing because what we will see is him against this generational, apparently talented Kimi Antonelli. He's got Lewis in a Ferrari. He's got to pick up that Mercedes and not let it finish fourth in the World Championship. Kimi's going to be allowed to go and crash when he's chasing the leaders. He's going to be allowed to make mistakes. George Russell cannot make a mistake next season like he did, say, in Singapore last year, places like that.
If the car's there. With the caveat,
if the car isn't there, though, he needs to lead.
He needs to
no. Sorry.
Results where you drag it by the...
Sorry, the caveat... Sorry, my caveat was in terms of when Dave said the car being there and challenging.
Yeah.
I meant if the car is challenge worthy for a title.
Yeah,
because
I don't expect it to be a title-winning car next season, but if it is, you're right. He has to be in amongst it. He can't not be.
Especially because I don't think Mercedes will back. Yeah, Antonelli's their star boy, but people forget George Russell's from that same Mercedes driver academy and stuff. He'll get all the backing. He'll get all the backing he needs.
The question is, will he? Because you've got to remember.
I think he will.
I think Mercedes, unlike, say, a Red Bull or a Ferrari in the past, I think they have a very good pedigree of backing both drivers. We've seen that with Rosberg. We saw it with Bottas. And the same with Russell and Hamilton. I don't think they have any issues running a 2-car team and giving both drivers their support.
Yeah. This is the one thing, though. Like, obviously, I would say Toto is looking at Kimi like Ron Dennis looked at Kimi and Mika. He's looking at him going, he is my man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if George doesn't set his stall out in the first quarter of next season, Mercedes will turn their heads to Kimi straight away. And I can understand that. And that's where we sort of see the George Russell, where we go, right, is he going to end up at Audi? Where's he going to end up? He's got to take the chance while he's got Mercedes. And it was always going to be hard to come in as Lewis Hamilton's teammate. He's done well, but now he needs to step that up and go, right, I need to blow Kimi out the water while I keep that in there.
You've got it perfectly. He needs to. It doesn't matter how generational Antonelli is. He needs to blow Kimi out of the water next year.
He's almost going to hide into nothing now, if you think about it, right? Because if he beats him, where everyone goes, wow, Antonelli was overhyped and he's too young and he shouldn't have been in F1 too soon. He only did Frecker last year. So George was bound to beat him. If he loses, he's like, well, he was bound to lose because he's a generational talent like Senna. So Russell's on a hiding to nothing. So you're right, he has to deliver, but at the same time, how does he win? He only wins by blowing him away. And even if he does that, he's basically kicked a dead donkey.
No, but then the conversations... But then there's more fingers and there's more conversations at the Mercedes organization in terms of they've not improved. All Toto did was take Ross Brawn's title-winning structure, and he's done fuck all since. And that's where the conversation leads. But you'd much rather have that conversation than getting to Qatar and there's only 5 points between you and your rookie teammate, and people going, listen,
I mean, look how much criticism Alonso took in 2007 when he was getting beat by Lewis Hamilton, and we know how good Lewis Hamilton was. So that's why I think it's got to be George has got to step up, find that little bit of spark pace, shall we say? He's very quick, very consistent, but he's got to find that extra thing that makes you Charles Leclerc. It's almost like Carlos Sainz. He's got to find that extra that makes you Charles Leclerc that can pull out a lap, or Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton.
I think Fernando would have been mentally broken if Lewis had wrapped up in China like he should have.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have seen Fernando still on the grid today for sure. I would like to just quickly say, Mimsy, thank you for the sub. Always appreciated, and we don't get often some during the podcast, so we like to shout it out. But yeah, so it's going to be one with George Russell needs to step it up. Maybe, what's the gap now? 9 points between him and Lewis. Yes, okay.
Got disqualified. It's 217. It's 218 plays 219 or something.
So it's 9 points. George has to try and finish his season in front of Lewis, especially with what and we've said it before with Mercedes. Like, are they going to let Lewis have that free reign in the last couple of races?
No, they're going to no. You do not want your number one driver, losing to the guy who's going to your rival next year.
No, I get it.
Yeah, if he was retiring, I think we would have the last race. They would put absolutely everything behind Lewis. And I think would have no issue with it. Like we've seen before in the past. Like retiring drivers get everything thrown at them for the last race, and they usually do quite well. But if he's moving teams, nah.
Yeah, I mean, it was one hell of a drive from Lewis, and I think it showed that the drive is still there for him.
Yeah.
He needs.
Yeah, do you know what? I think it was the perfect time to demonstrate how good he is. Because I'm like Wajid. I still believe that it doesn't matter about his age. He's 39, coming up for 40 in January. There is a a stigma attached to 40-year-olds. We haven't had a 40-year-old plus winner since Nigel Mansell back in 1994. So there is that stigma attached to them, even as well as Alonso has done in the last couple of seasons. And I think it was important for Lewis to put a statement drive down. I know he's won races this year, but arguably this was his best drive. So I think he needed a statement drive like this, just to remind everyone that isn't necessarily a Wajid or a me in terms of believes that he's still got the talent and he could still win a title in the right car. I think other now people will now believe, because they'll actually go, yeah, shit, yeah. You know what? If he's in a bad mood and he's grumpy bastard, he's the kind of guy that can just dig out fastest lap after. I remember that Lewis Hamilton from a few. Yeah. I remember him. He's going to be fucking great in Ferrari.
He needs to sort out his qualifying. Qualifying this year has been.
Yeah, atrocious. I mean, I think he'll suffer next year, Wajid. I really do. Against Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Charles is the single quickest guy in a single lap, and I think head-to-head with Lewis will be a brilliant thing for Charles, because he'll understand he is quicker than that. But then Lewis, I think, is a better racecraft driver, so hopefully it'll be one of those.
So stupidly, I don't expect him to beat Charles Leclerc head-to-head qualifying. But my thing is that he can't be down consistently like he has done in some of the races where it's a consistent 9th, 10th. Yeah, he needs to be, if he's going to qualify sort of poorly, a poor qualifier needs to be 5th or 6th. It can't be,
or a 10th at most. You know, Look at Sainz. Sainz has been regularly out-qualified by Leclerc over the 3 seasons they've been together, but it's rarely more than half a tenth. Half a tenth, for crying out loud. That's insane. That's how close Sainz has been to Leclerc, who we all agree is the fastest guy in F1 over a single lap. So, yeah, Lewis needs to be within a tenth.
Yeah. Next up.
Sorry, just quickly. It's a shame the constructors' points means absolutely nothing for Mercedes, because they're literally in the middle of no man's land. Fourth place also up, guys. Well done.
Yeah, literally helping McLaren at this point.
Yeah, which we're now going to get on to. They went missing in Las Vegas. Don't ask me if they get caught in the slots in the gangways or what. But Lando 6th, Oscar 7th. Fastest lap for Lando, obviously, with a soft tyre at the very end. Gaining an extra point against Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc obviously not finishing on the podium.
Stupid.
Team orders.
So stupid.
But it's really weird, because like in Singapore, that car was really quick and dominant. And then you come to Las Vegas, similar in terms of circuit to a point, and a bit more high downforce in Singapore, but just absolutely nowhere. And this is what I meant by a diva of the car. And this is, I'm going to throw this out there now. Like, obviously, a lot of criticism goes towards Lando Norris. The one thing we do have to remember is, one, it's the first time he's gone into a title fight. Yes, people like Lewis Hamilton went into a title fight, got to the end, etc.
I'm not doing this.
No, but we've got to remember Lando Norris.
I'm not doing this.
Only took his first Grand Prix victory in Miami.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit.
But he may have.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep on cutting you off. That's really rude of me. I do apologize. Sorry. No, genuinely.
He really. Yeah, he could have won more. Don't get me wrong. We look back. Mexico probably should have won it. Monza probably should have won it. Hungary should have won it. All these coulda, woulda, shouldas. But we've got a guy here who is a confidence driver. We know that. We know he hasn't. If he's got the confidence, he carves through. If he has a sort of a bit of a dull race like Spa, doesn't really come through. I just think we've got to remember that he has took his first Grand Prix victory this season after years of not getting it. And look what happened once he got his podium. They started, the next season really started coming through with loads of podiums. He's got his first win. Maybe next year, a lot of people are going, oh, here comes Oscar Piastri. It's like, yeah, but Lando did an extra stop in Las Vegas and still beat Piastri by 8 seconds. He still demolished Piastri yet again. And I still think Lando will be completely leading McLaren next season.
He needed 3 points to take it to Qatar, and he was fucking nowhere. He needed 3 points, right? And I'm sorry. I'm totally not doing this shit of, oh, he got his first win this year. How many years has he been in Formula One?
Yeah, but he's only
How
just got
many?
a car
No,
that can win.
How many years has he been in Formula One?
His debut was 2019.
So he came in at the same
5
time as
years.
George Russell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. If this was George Russell in this situation, no one would be going, oh, it's the first time. No one would be doing this shit. If it was Leclerc, no one would be doing this shit. Why does Lando get the benefit of that? This man ran his mouth like a fucking wanker. Yeah, I'm like, who cares about the language at this point? This guy ran his mouth like a fucking wanker years ago. Yeah, when he said, if you have the fastest car, you win. Yeah. Clearly, dickhead, it's not that easy to win, is it? Right? Run your mouth up like an idiot. This is what happens. Should have won in Spain, bottled it. Should have won in Silverstone. His team bottled it. Should have won in Austria. Cool. Max did what Max does. Cool. Hungary, his teammate took him, and then there was the whole neighbors / Emmerdale / Brookside / EastEnders drama. That what would you think of the team? Blah blah blah. Monza bottled it again. Kota, he bottled it into the first corner. They didn't have the pace to win, but he bottled it into the first corner. Like, it's just excuse after excuse after excuse. It has been abject. It has been pathetic, right? And tough shit. You ain't good enough. End of. Yeah. Shut the fuck up next year and perform on the track. Hopefully you don't focus on Lewis Hamilton. Hopefully you don't focus on Lewis or anything like that. Hopefully you don't run your mouth. Hopefully you're not a whiny little bitch. Hopefully you step up next year and do it. Right, this is my opinion. I ain't getting a press pass. You know what I mean? I ain't getting signed to Quadrant. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. You whined, you bitched, you complained when you got given the tools. And bear in mind, this year there was ample time. It's not like it's a 16 race season. You know what I mean? He's had a car since Miami. He had ample time and he's done nothing. Pathetic, abject. Well done. You finished second in the quickest car since on average since you got it. Well done. Congratulations. You have the same amount of wins as a bunch of other people who've got slower cars. Well done. Yeah, second place. Well done. Fucking pathetic. You needed 3 points to take it to Qatar. Couldn't do fuck all. I'm sick of it because I've heard it from Sky. It's just frustration of listening to this Lando Norris rhetoric, and it's just bullshit. Paul?
I mean, I fall probably somewhere between the two of you. In that I do, with the historical knowledge I have of F1, I've been following it for 45 years now. I have seen this before. This story has played out many times before. It doesn't always end in a world championship title, but more often than not, it does. We've seen drivers who mature at different rates and take on different difficulties at different rates. Some drivers come in like Max or a Senna or a Schumacher and they hit the ground running and they win straight away in their first seasons or their second seasons. And they go for titles fairly early on. Schumacher did it in his third season, fourth season, he was a world champion. Second season, he already won a race. Senna did the same thing, came in 84, won races in 85, then was world champion 3 years later. Hamilton did it even earlier, obviously. So those kind of drivers are what we measure other drivers by when they come to title challenges. They don't always end up like that. You look back at someone like Alain Prost, for instance, who spent 5 years driving for McLaren and Renault and didn't take a world title. And a couple of occasions, particularly 83, genuinely bottled it. But then came back and ended up as a 4-time world champion. So it's not always a linear journey in F1 to a world title. Jenson Button is another good example of that. Fernando Alonso is a good example of that. Even Sebastian Vettel, to a degree, is a bit like that as well. So there's different ways of getting there. I take Wajid's point, though, that he has bowled it this season. There have been opportunities plenty this season. I think, in fairness, I look back and I think it's not unreasonable to expect to have gotten to the 22nd round of the season and see Lando with 7 wins. I think that's a fair reflection. Arguably, even 8 or 9 could be on the board if you want to take what Wajid was saying earlier. I think 7's a fair amount of wins. What's actually happened is he's won 2 of the last 16, when in 14 of those 16 races, he's had the fastest car. So, yes, some of that is down to McLaren, some of it being naivety, some of it being down to Lando. But overall, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you look at McLaren and where they were last year and the year before, and you go, this is a much better improvement. This is a huge improvement for them. They're actually in the title fight. But that's not really... The fact that they were in it, it's not good enough when they've had the best car for the majority of the season. At least 3/5 of the season, they've had the best car. So, yes, I think they can come back next year and use this as a learning environment. But we're in F1 for crying out loud. So a bit like, again, I've taken some of what David said as truth and some of what Wajid said. I agree with Wajid. This is F1. There's no time to be like nicey-nicey. Look how vicious Verstappen's been for the last 4 years, and he's won 4 titles. There's a reason why champions are nasty bastards half the time. They win world titles. It's very rare you get a really nice guy who comes along and goes, I won a world title and I'm a really nice bloke. It doesn't happen like that. So Lando has got to find that edge, that viciousness, that fight if he really wants to take it to Red Bull. And I think, unfortunately for him, he had a couple of opportunities early on in this season to do exactly that, put a marker down with Max in particular, despite his friendship. But he didn't do it. And then, unfortunately, from then on, Max was in his head, literally living rent-free in his head for the rest of the season. So every time they came upon each other, Lando was already mentally broken already. So he needs to get over that, and he needs to move on. And I think he can, but I think it's going to take a lot to get over that. And I think McLaren are going to have to come out of the blocks very quickly next season, which, by the way, they do not have a good record of over the last 10 years. You look back over the last 10 years of F1, only 1 season have they come out of the blocks actually with a reasonable car at the start of the season that has then not improved over the season, has gone backwards. Every other year, particularly in the Zach Brown era, they've come out in the first 4 or 5 races. It's taken them time to get down to speed. So they don't need that next year. They need to come out of the block straight away firing if they're going to have a chance of winning the title.
This is what I want to see.
Lando's going to have that over Oscar. Although I will say this in defense of Lando, Oscar has gone missing in the last 3 races, like literally 8th, and 7th. What the fuck? Like he literally the worst 3 results he's had since the start of the first 4 or 5 races of the season. So Oscar also, I don't think, is interested in backing up Lando, which is probably why he's tailed off. And he's also not interested in helping McLaren right now because they basically haven't backed him. I think he's a very different kettle of fish when it comes to the mind stuff. He won't fuck around. He won't tolerate any bullshit from Max Verstappen on track. And so I actually think it's more likely Oscar will be in for a chance at the title sooner than Lando will.
Do you know, sorry, just quickly, Dave, do you know what sold it for me this season? Austria.
Yeah, Austria was the turning point for me too.
Yeah, because that was Max Verstappen's marker. Yeah. Like Max Verstappen goes, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. And Lando's still been playing we're friends. He hasn't gone in for lunges when he should have and stuff like that. And that's where I can't sympathize.
Fully agree.
Right. For me, that's do. Sorry, go on. No, go on. No,
I was going to say I do partly agree with that. I also look at it this way, that obviously we've already spoke about Max having a huge advantage at the start of the season. He took 5 wins out of 6, etc. Started running away, kind of thing. And I think for Lando, it was like I know what we've said about titles when he's gone on to take victories and is he going to close in and stuff like that. But I think in their hearts and hearts at McLaren, which was proven in Hungary because they didn't swap them, they swapped them back, that the driver's title probably wasn't, people like myself might have said, yeah, okay, we're on for a title fight. But I think in the hearts of McLaren, they're like, we're not really in it. Lando needs to come through. And I do think in Lando's head, he was going, he should have got over the fighting with nothing to lose as such. But I think second in the World Championship, for example, or being in the title fight, probably meant so much to Lando that he kind of made it that he lost his way a little bit at times.
So let's take fine. I take all that on board, but I see it from a totally different way. You end up with the quickest car with 16 races. I think, Paul, mistake me wrong. He was around 60 points behind after Miami, correct?
He was 53 points behind.
Right. You essentially have everyone. I'd already said Max had won the world title by then. You were the only person, rightly or wrongly, or one of the very few people that said there's still a world title fight here. You have a free hit. No one is expecting anything from you. Right? Hardly ever in Formula One do you end up with the quickest car, and people do not expect anything from you. You have a free hit from the world. You have a mental free hit to literally go do whatever the hell you want, right? Him and McLaren they've never been in a fight, but that is loser mentality. And regardless of anyone else in the team, I myself as the driver should still have, well, this is my world title, this is my legacy, this is mine. He didn't take any of that. He got Max ended up in his head. He's made mistakes. And then the other point I want to make, McLaren starts slow. Cool. 2025, everyone is expecting a much closer world title. If he doesn't do it next year, in what universe do we think McLaren are going to have a car in 2026? So, like, what with the new regulation change? Because we've seen what regulations change. Look at Mercedes.
We don't know. That's the point, right? I think your point is like mine. Is that next year could actually be his one big shot winning a title.
Yeah,
I think this year was his big shot.
I mean, it'll be. I do get what people are saying. I also think, let's take Pierre Gasly sitting in third place on the grid this weekend, which was a great result. But then, when we get people up there who kind of don't expect to be there, and then they go, oh, well, actually, finishing second's amazing. Didn't expect that. And I think that kind of is like subconsciously there, which if you're going to win a world championship,
that's the point, though.
You have to get rid of it.
That's what Wajid was saying, though.
Yeah, but that's what
you can't have a losing mentality being an F1 driver. You have to come into F1 believing you're the best driver on the planet, that in the right circumstances you can win a world title. You have to believe that. If you don't believe that, why are you in F1?
And I don't. And to be honest, I don't think Lando does.
That's why Lando, Oscar. That's why I think Lando, Seitz, Russell, people like that are almost into the same kind of realm. I think we spoke about it last year.
I disagree, though. You look at their junior careers again, because this is where junior careers do play a part, right?
Yeah.
Go back into their junior careers. Look at what George Russell did in juniors, right? He won F3 and he won F2 back to back. Who else also won back to back F3 and F2? Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc. It sounds like this is a common occurrence. It's not. It really isn't. But those three drivers are all in F1 and all won back-to-back world champions. They know how to win world titles, whether it be in F2 or F3 or karts. They know how to do it. Lando doesn't. He doesn't know how to do that.
He won his European F3.
Yeah, but he doesn't know how to win titles on a regular basis, is my point. Go back to that season and have a look at what he did. F2, he had 2 seasons where he had a really good team in Carlin around him in F2, and he didn't deliver. He got beaten by his own teammate. That teammate was Sergio Sette Camara. Where's he now? With all due respect to Sergio, I really like Sergio. He's a really nice guy. But he
only did 1 year.
Right? Yeah.
He only did 1 year of F2.
Yeah, against Sergio Sette Camara. That's my point. That season is the 1 year that George Russell also did F2. What happened to George Russell that season?
Yeah, Lando was there, though. He was second in the championship.
Yeah, but my point again is he wasn't winning the title. No. He wasn't expected to win the title. He only finished second because of the point system at the end. He wasn't actually in the running for it.
No.
He was mostly outpaced by his teammate. But George Russell was also a rookie that season and won a title. My point is that when you become you have that winning mentality of I know how to win a title, Lando hasn't got that killer instinct, the same as a George has, or a Charles has, or even an Oscar Piastri has.
In the off season, he needs to spend a lot of time with a sports psychologist.
Yeah,
and he needs to work through, because I genuinely believe he doesn't believe he's the fastest man. Verstappen has a mental edge over him, and
he does,
once sort of Lewis goes, Fernando, we can ignore. Fernando's just at a retirement home at this moment in time. But once Lewis goes, maybe aside from Charles and Sainz,
I would say Charles has got a lot better at it. Like
But
at first, he would be like, "Off you go, Max. We've raced each other for years." But I think he's getting better at it.
yeah, but my point is that unless these guys really get in with a sports psychologist and really think about it, I think Max has the mental edge. Not don't even put the chat. It's not even about the championship experience. I genuinely think Max has a mental edge over all of them because, rightly or wrongly, Max will win at all costs, and these guys just won't. And I think for your first world title, I think especially for your first world title, you need to go in with the mindset of I'm going to do whatever it takes. Look at Rosberg. Look at what Rosberg did. Rosberg did so much because he knew who he was facing. He knew.
Probably why he retired, right?
Yeah.
Because he
It's
mentally broken.
Yeah. It's the biggest reason he retired. He literally said, "I can't do this again. I cannot do. I cannot do this
again." Go through it. Yeah.
And the ridiculous thing is, he did all of that, and if Lewis's engine doesn't blow up in Malaysia, he wouldn't have won the world. He wouldn't have won the world title, right? But he did all that. He saw a psychologist. He turned off his social media. He was so laser locked in because that's who he was facing.
Yeah.
He spent everything, right? But that's why. Regardless, that's why a lot of people have respect Rosberg. Not for the way he retired, because everyone he should have come back on it. But people respect Rosberg because Rosberg dedicated one entire year of his whole life. He goes, I am going to win a world championship. And these guys at this moment in time don't have that same mindset, that same mentality, that same drive, and they need to sort it out.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, like you say, I think like Paul said, I think Lando can do it, and I just think this season may have just. I know it keeps sounding like I'm trying to back him up. Basically, sort of surprised him that he was going to be in there because he never won a Grand Prix, so you don't think you're going to be in a championship challenge. And I think he's learned a lot from this season that he'll take into next season, where he starts on a 0-0. Everyone's on 0.
I think it's better we come back in a year's time and we assess where he is after another year. That's all. But my crux of my whole point was more that drivers mature at different rates, and it doesn't mean they're better or worse than another driver that does it quicker. That's all.
I'll tell you what, that is balls thinking I'm going to have you back in a year.
That's true, actually.
We'll move on very quickly.
So my thing's not about it's nothing to do about maturity and stuff. It's just cut next year. Just shut your mouth and get on with it. Don't speak like a multiple world champion, like you've been there. When this year you've clearly shown you're not of that ilk. Next year, if he wins it, shuts me up. Cool. Yeah. Act how you want. But next year, just keep your mouth shut and focus on the racing. And that's where my thing comes from.
Well, we're going to move on to teams that probably shouldn't shut up because they're closing in very quickly on the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari, 3rd, 4th and 5th this weekend. So, 3rd, 4th and 5th. What have we running? 3 cars again. It's like Kirby. The back end overtook the front end.
They got the spare car from Belgium '98 and decided to run it as well.
Well, to be fair, the 5th place was Luca Badoa's best ever result in the front. Anyway, 3rd and 4th, controversially, Sainz ahead of Leclerc. Obviously, Sainz leaving the team, so we knew this fight was going to be on. But again, Carlos Sainz, when push comes to shove, he is now again coming into, look, this is what I can do. Yes, but it's too blooming late. I do think actually Sainz would have stayed if Lewis hadn't moved, to be fair. Yeah. I think he's proved enough in the Ferrari, and he's still proven enough. And he's going to be a great driver for Williams, Red Bull, if they go and grab him. But yeah, Ferrari getting in there. Let's go, before we do this, let's just. I'm going to play something very quickly for you all in the background, thanks to Paul, because we've got to talk about the pit lane cut of Carlos' site. So we'll just play this first.
Have you suddenly found yourself out of a job? Do you have experience as a race director who can take orders from a racist boss? Then you could fit right in at the FIA. Apply now for the open race director role and be blamed for frivolous rule enforcement like jewellery or swearing. Apply now.
Federation Internationale dell'Automobile.
Love it. In terms of
Credit to Bart, by the way, for creating that.
Yes, thank you, Bart, for creating that and many other adverts for Paul.
Yeah.
But we had to play that one because yet again we've got an undeniable mistake by the race director, and it was Rue Marquez's first event. But this is a plain and dead rule in Formula One that's been there for ages. We think of Lewis Hamilton entering the pit lane at Hockenheim. Oh no, came back out, didn't he? It was in, out of
Across the white line.
Across the white line.
You do it on pit exit, you lose it. Charles has straight lined into the pit lane onto the apex of a flat out corner. Yes, luckily nobody was coming round, but imagine if somebody had been coming round at that stage, we would have had a huge accident. How's he got away with it, Wajid? Sorry, was that meant to go to Paul first?
No, because I don't.
Coming down here, I don't know either.
No, because like my reaction is what Paul's reaction would have been. I don't know. Not the foggiest. No Scooby Doo. I was sat there watching, going, all right, cool. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, cool. I was gonna get a penalty. And it just kept going on and on. I was just like, they're not even reviewing it.
Yeah, but it wasn't even like noted.
Yeah, and I was just, and you're just there going, this is why the FIA becomes a weekly segment on this show, because you're just there going, like
a weekly segment which will be keeping that peaceful.
Yeah, but you as a old head or whatever the hell you want to go, traditionals, whatever the hell people want to call it, the Netflix generation want to call it, but you're just holding your head in your hands about any level of consistency. It is literally like taking an attacker down in a clear goal scoring opportunity in football. Like everyone knows the rule, and you're just there going, what?
The worst thing I don't get, and this is something Paul might be able to jump in because he's formerly raced, but I guess you didn't have radios when you were racing and things like that. Ferrari said, no, stay out. And then the driver, who knows the rules, chooses to cross that white line.
Yeah, although I would say, so I'll give you from the driver's point of view. I've read all the rules because you have to when you get your MSA license. And back in those days, it wasn't as detailed as it is today.
We didn't even have pit lane white line, to be fair, in those days.
We didn't have no pit lane white lines back then, so it didn't matter what we came out. And we also didn't have speed limits in the pits by then, by the way. Nothing.
When Paul was racing, the tyre wasn't even made of rubber, it was made of stone.
Exactly, it was like stone. So we had a pedal as well on the bottom of the car. So fuck off, Wajid. So yeah, it was basically almost anything went. But one of the things that I very much remember is that the race director, usually what would happen is he would come into the pit lane before the race and he'd be like, right, you bunch of fucks. If you fucking do this, I'm fucking having you. You're going to get disqualified. Like, oh, fuck, okay. That was basically our chats with the race. But they were ferocious people. They were, and they were there to protect us and protect the crowd and protect the marshals. They were. That's all they ever cared about was safety. They didn't care about, have you got a bit of jewelry on? Is that patch? Or have you cleared that with someone? I don't give a fuck about that stuff. They care about, can we all stay alive and come back to the pit lane afterwards having not killed anyone? That was their main basis. And on that basis alone, anything the race director said to you, if he said to you, we're doing Brands Indy, and he's like, if you fucks cut the pit lane from the left to the right, I'm fucking disqualifying you because that's fucking dangerous and I don't want an accident on the pit entry. We'd be like, Yep, fuck, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And if one person did it in practice, he was fucking. They were in the fucking steward's office straight away, because there was no tolerating any of the bullshit, because it was all about safety. So bring that forward for 30 lots of years, and think about Rui Marquez doing the same thing in a similar way, probably not quite as vociferous as that, but he's basically got the same role, and he's saying to the drivers, do not do any of these things. At the moment that the driver is in that position, I guarantee you he is not thinking about the rules, because that's not something he said to him that morning, as it would have been for me, right? And I absolutely, I never got disqualified or had a technical infringement, but there were times when I would come back in the pits and they'd go, oh, you know, like you overtook that guy going into Paddock Hill, yeah? And I was like, yeah. They're like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have done that, because like if the race director had seen you do that the way you did it, like he'd probably have a word with you. Oh, shit, really? Yeah. I would have no idea what that rule would be, because when you're in the middle of that driver, you don't think about that. So I think the driver sat there going, like they've said stay out, he wants to come in, then he wants to stay out. Fuck, okay, I'll move out. At that point, he probably goes, oh, fuck, did I cross the line? I fucking did, didn't I? Fuck. But he wouldn't have been able to process that information as quickly as like it happened and know that was a rule, if that makes sense. He knows it's
nobody mentioned it.
In that moment, he's not. Yeah, and then nobody mentions it, and then you're like, well, like Wajid, I was just sat there going, oh, well, that will come up as a penalty at some point. That's a shame.
I was going to say, I guess you two would both be in my position that you thought, right, the race is finished. It's 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was here. So about midday, we'll see an FIA briefing.
He's getting a retrospective. He's getting something retrospective. He's getting
I fully
10
expected
seconds,
that to happen. But then I also
12.
thought, well, okay, so it came up with like the investigate, and then it just never got investigated, or it never got passed on. So I feel like there was a procedural error somewhere, because it is a slam dunk, and you know, it has been in there for a very long time, since we've had the white lines. I think 94, that rule has been in there, so 30 years. It's a very old rule. Drivers do know it, even if they wouldn't know it in that moment of the heat of the battle of the racing. He will know it 10 seconds later and go, oh fuck, I crossed that fucking line, didn't I? Oh fuck, that's going to be a penalty. He would know, right? And the team would definitely know that would be a penalty. So there's no doubt. I also then think the other teams probably wouldn't have even put anything in. Normally what happens is this is something we don't see, that I happen to know about and have seen. If a team or a driver does something wrong out on the track, usually the stewards aren't always aware of it, but the teams are, because guess what? They have spotters back at home, watching over 16 different banks of screens, all on boards, everything. They've got everything access that we've got to at home if you do F1 TV. They've got a whole nerve centre back in England in the case of like McLaren or a Mercedes. They've got a whole team of people come in on a Sunday morning, and that's what they do. They sit there and watch the race, and they feed back stuff to the team. I guarantee you someone at McLaren has seen that. Could be McLaren, Mercedes, Sauber. Doesn't matter. Someone has seen him do that and gone, that's a slam dunk. Normally, what they would do is they would write to the McLaren sporting director who was on the pit wall and go, we've seen an infringement. Charles did this. Carlos did that. This should be a penalty. You need to report it. The sporting director at the front of the pit lane will then report that via the internal FIA complaint system. It's a type system. They'll type it and send it off. It's why, did you see my email became quite famous? It's not email, but it's a similar messaging system. The FIA will then reply back saying they're investigating that. And that's when usually we get that bar that says they're investigating this particular... Yeah. It's because the team has complained, right? If the team don't complain and the stewards haven't seen it, nothing will happen. It won't get investigated. I think this is one of those rare occasions when all the teams just went, what an idiot. Like, oh my God, he knows he can't do that. And they just haven't bothered reporting it because it's so fucking obvious that everyone's going to see it anyway and he's going to get 5 seconds. And then somehow no one's reported it. And then because no one's reported it, the stewards have gone, well, nobody's complained about it, so I guess we let it go. And then, of course, the race director's like, well, I didn't see it, so I don't know about it.
And what was even more baffling about it? You get the marginal ones where they literally this is the sensor that picked up the sensor on the wire line that picked up. This guy went airborne over the curbs. Like, it wasn't even like he went airborne across and you're just there going, eh?
Yeah.
What?
But for me as well, you saw the Piastri jump start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, he gained no advantage. He was still within the realms of the pit box. He was just past the yellow marker, which is the marker they use from a visual point of view of lining it up. So he was millimeters over it. Can't reverse because that's against the rules. Can't reverse on the grid. It's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So he could do nothing about where he's at, but he's still within the confines. Surely that's a bit of common sense. But okay, that's a slam dunk penalty as well. They did that one.
Yeah, I did. I don't blame Rui Marquez, but
no, I don't either. I think it's really tough.
It's a really bad.
It's a really basic.
bad.
Yeah, it's a poor decision because it is, like Wajid said, it's one of the few black and white rules that we have. And when we've got a black and white rule, we're not expecting them to use common sense. We want them to enforce the rule because then it's exactly the same as it was for the previous race and the same person last race and the person that got paid. We've got the consistency that we've been craving all season, right? But at the same time, we've also been asking for one other thing, which is common sense. Now, common sense says actually Sainz doing what he did on the entry to the pit lane. Did it put anyone at risk? No. Was there a safety issue? No. Okay, let's use common sense and say no penalty on this occasion. But that can't be used in that situation because it's a black and white rule. So whilst asking for consistency and common sense, we're asking for you to not apply common sense to something that is fucking consistent. Yeah. How hard can it be? Well, we know how hard it can be.
Just bring back drive-through and stop-and-go penalties. That'll be
yeah. But you've still got to actually give them. On the other side of the
I don't want another championship decided by the FIA, thanks.
Yeah, but it'll happen.
We'll put
Abu Dhabi 2025 when we're doing we'll be here this time next year when we're doing a preview podcast at Abu Dhabi.
The FIA decides the world champion.
We'll be doing a preview podcast. We'll be like, oh, let's bring up Abu Dhabi 21 because it'll be a 3-person championship, and they don't want Verstappen to win 5. They don't want Lewis to win 8, so they'll give it to Leclerc or
conspiracy.
Well, looking on the other side of the garage, we're just going to throw it this is going to be pretty much like a yes or no to a point. Charles Leclerc now 21 points behind Lando Norris, 2 races to go. Who's going to be second in the championship?
Lando.
Okay, we feel the gap's a bit too big now.
Ask the other question. Are Ferrari going to finish? Are Ferrari going to win the constructors?
Well, yeah, that's very true.
The answer is yes.
But I'm going to have to take you're going to take my job in a minute. Are McLaren going to win the constructors? There you go.
No.
The gap is 24 points there. So let's see. I mean, we could have a right showdown in Abu Dhabi with that. It just depends. Let's see how McLaren go in Qatar because they have been very good in the past. So it'll be interesting. Just looking at the rest of the results before we move on to previews, because actually, we've gone on again. Let's have a look very quickly. Where we gone? I've lost I know the results is running below the bottom of the screen, everybody, before anybody says something, but I want to actually be able to see them all. We had the 2 McLarens, then just behind that, Nico Hülkenberg with a very good drive again to 8th place. That puts him into the top 10 of the championship overall.
Haas also overtook Alpine because of his 2 points as well. It's actually quite past him. Yeah, it's actually quite close between. I think it's 50. Yeah, 50 plays 49 plays 44. I think there's like 6 points between Haas, Alpine, and Red Bull, Visa, Cash App, American Express.
Yeah, and that really
PayPal.
Wasn't helped by Gasly, amazing qualifying, and then blowing his engine, typical Renault, as Christian Horner might say. It's such a close battle there, 50, 49, 46, as you say. Williams on 17, their season's just gone to pot. Zhou Guanyu didn't have a bad run, to be fair, for this weekend. Up into 13th, looked like he might nick a point if things went his way. Only 5 points off Fernando. 11 seconds off for points in the end, which actually is a success for Sauber. And the final point is that Lego are bringing out every single car in Formula One, which will be great with different side pods and everything. Apparently, the Williams is coming as IRL, so
In bits.
it will be in business from the start, and you won't be able to repair it.
And sorry, quickly. At least Guan Yu Zhou always had his 13th place podium in China.
Yeah, that celebration on the start finish.
Yeah,
but we are starting to see. Yes, Colapinto has more pace than Sargent, but my God, the repair bills this season.
Sorry, guys. What did I tell you like 3 podcasts ago when everyone was raving about him? What did I tell you? He's got great pace, but he was called Crasher Pinto in the junior formers for a reason. That's why I never understood why they were. One of the things that we were told by James Vowles when he brought him on board was because A, he thought he'd be quicker than Logan Sargent, and B, he was tired of the rebuild bills. Well, you were going to get more from a rookie.
Yeah, but it's not just Colapinto now, is it? It's Albon throwing in at the wall.
They've destroyed 5 cars in 2 races between them.
I mean, I saw a piece from James Vowles saying, which they must have took literally, don't care if we destroy everything in 23 and 24 and 25, it's about 26. And you're kind of going, I bet you're regretting saying that now. They've got to next season with the hands, Carlos Sainz is coming in, safe pair of hands. Albon really has to step up there and stop crashing the car. And, Albon would get results if he didn't crash the car. So he's got to really do that against Sainz next year. And as we see on the results, yes, a random Kit Kat sponsored Mexican in 10th place. He obviously took the saying, take a break, a little bit too literally.
Did go too far, didn't it, really?
Predictions. Wajid, what predictions do we have for qualifying at Vegas? This is not going to look good, is it? So, the results were Verstappen in 5th.
Oh, I got that.
Leclerc in 4th. Gasly 3rd.
I got... Oh wait, I got Sainz. Oh no, I put Norris 2nd. I got one.
Let me have a look. So you got Verstappen 5th.
I've got Piastri 4th, Sainz 3rd, Norris 2nd.
I got. What was Sainz? He put himself 2nd, didn't he? So, and then Paul
got Sainz in 2nd.
Sainz in 2nd. So it's
Hold on. Who else had Gasly in the top 5 though? Hello.
You had Ocon in the top 5.
Yeah, Ocon.
Oh, I had Ocon. Oh. I knew that one of the Alpines would get in there.
See, he's been obsessed by that pink livery all week, but he's still going. A clean sweep of 2 out of 15 between the 3 of us. Yes. Going on to race predictions. Hang on, we'll stick with qualifying for a minute. Sorry, my mouse is playing up. There we go. We'll stick with the qualifying predictions. We did both have. Did any of us have a Mercedes? Sorry.
No. Well, why would we do that?
None of us even had a Mercedes in the top few.
Why would we?
Well, yeah, very true. But I mean, look at the pace.
No one knew it was going to be 4 degrees centigrade. No one knew that the track was going to be the greenest it's ever been.
And that DAS is back in use. No, I'm kidding about that one. Somebody just not knowing forces of nature on. Going to the race results, obviously the top 5 was Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, and we got Sainz, Hamilton, Verstappen, Piastri, Leclerc. No, Hulkenberg. Okay. Verstappen 4th. No, he was 5th.
Verstappen was 5th.
Sainz 3rd. I'll take that.
Norris 2nd.
Leclerc. Paul actually did pick a Mercedes, but down in 4th. Yeah, you got none. So actually,
we all got 1 each. We went. So
we all sucked equally as bad.
We went 3 for 30.
Nice, quality job, guys. Couldn't do it without you. What a team we are!
Wow.
We are literally the Sauber of prediction.
At least it was consistent.
No, we've still got more points than Sauber.
At least it was consistent.
With the Williams. Well, Williams. Can I just give you one other thing? I'm just going to be really quick on this. The current, I don't know if you follow this, but there's a this has been done for the last 4 or 5 years by the Reddit guys. They do a Destructors Championship, which is the driver that has made the most damage every season.
Oh, are you bringing the Gasly thing up? Yeah.
Currently, the leader of the World Destructors Championship is Sergio Perez on $4.8 million of damage. Alex Albon is now second on $4.6 million, so we're going to go down to the wire between those two. George Russell is currently third on 3.3 million. Then Logan Sargent fourth with 3 million, which is why Williams are winning this one. Sainz is fifth, and then sixth already is Franco Colapinto on 2.7 million's worth of damage. So he's already he's only 300 grand behind Logan Sargent in 5 races. So I'm just pointing that out. So Williams are winning the Destructors Championship by an absolute mile right now.
Yeah, there is one I want to throw in there. That of Gasly has
had zero damage. $0 done all season.
That's a lie, though.
No, it's not.
Monaco.
No, I knew you were going to bring up. No, it doesn't count.
And also,
why doesn't it count?
Because they reused all of the parts.
And also, it
didn't cost them anything.
And also, his engine blew up.
Yeah, that's not damage.
Yeah, that's this weekend, though. Yeah,
but
this week. This is before this weekend.
Yeah, but this is still, they're still going to count as he's done no physical damage. I know what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, he hasn't.
Yeah, but what's going to happen is he's going to do a Mark Webber at the end of the straight at Abu Dhabi on the last lap, just to go. I'm not winning that. Yeah, I mean, just.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of crazy that the 3 of the top 6 drivers are all Williams drivers in the constructors, and between them, we're currently sitting at $10.3 million worth of damage done, which will be a new record for a constructor for a single season.
It's all right. Just say it's the food bill. You'll be fine.
It'll fit under cakes. I will say.
At the moment, though, Sergio is still winning this. The only thing he's going to win if he wins anything.
Well. Yeah,
there's 2 more races.
There's 2 more races. Yeah. And he crashed out of Qatar a few times as well. In terms of next season as well, Jack Doohan has announced he will be running Kimi Raikkonen's number 7 because he can't have number 4 because Kimi Antonelli nicked that first.
No, Lando Norris. Lando Norris.
Sorry, not Lando. Kimi's running. What is Kimi running now?
He's run 2 different numbers this year. He's run 53 and something else, but I vaguely remember what his number was. I can't tell you what it is right now.
I can tell you because it's going to be on. It'll be on Wikipedia ready. Here we go. It's 12.
Is it 12? Okay.
I thought Gasly ran 12.
Which was what? Felipe Nasser's number?
Gasly's 10.
Yeah, Gasly's 10 right now.
Okay.
Felipe Nasser used to run 12.
That's it. Okay.
So that was like 2016, I think. So it's where you have to be out of 4 years, I think.
It's 3 or 4 years.
The number has to be out of 4 years.
Yeah, because Hulkenberg would have lost his had he not had those fill-ins, and I actually wanted him to lose it 27 because it's a famous number, and I wanted someone else to have it.
Yeah, well, it's still not going to make the podium. Right, so we'll move on from that very quickly because we actually have. Why is my mouse not working? We have the
Qatar Grand Prix
predictions to do
in at the Losail Speed Circuit in Doha.
Yes, in Doha, which is more MotoGP circuit. Just in terms of the preview, I've already shown the guys this, but Jonathan Noble, the Autosport person, has let us know the track changes to come in for Qatar.
I'm just going to pop off to sleep for a couple of hours.
I am just going to shorten them slightly. You can go and see his tweet over on X at the moment, but just a few track changes to curbs and new gravel strips at Qatar. So a 2 meter wide, a 2.0 meter, and why is it got that? I don't know. Wide gravel strip installed behind the curb at exit of turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And the curb height reduced at exits 1, 2, 4, 10. Entry and exit of 12, exit of 13, exit of 14. And the white line has been moved a distance of 1.5 meters to the moved to a distance of 1.5 meters to the gravel at exits turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 13, 14, 15, and entry 12. So basically, we're giving the drivers even more room because the width of the circuit is apparently not enough. Are we still both? Yeah, we're just about awake there, I think. Yeah, Qatar, not much to say about it. We've had a couple of Grand Prix around it. Not been terrible races. We have a huge tyre issues last year, though. Don't think Pirelli say we're on top of them. We shouldn't get that this year, which means pretty much guaranteed.
This is the same tyre company that said 5 minutes before the Las Vegas Grand Prix that this was absolutely categorically 100% a one-stop race, right?
Yep,
Yes,
that's the one.
Yeah, that's it.
Just clearing that up.
Yeah, so that's the same group saying that they have cleared this up, so probably not. I'm going to say let's go for our qualifying predictions first, because we do have sprint races, but we never predicted sprint races because we don't like them.
And who gives a shit about sprint races?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to say, Wajid, you're first. Because you're first on the list.
Races. I will say I'm going to go Sainz in fifth. I'm going to go Russell in fourth. I'm going to go Max in third. Max third. Leclerc second. And Norris first, because it doesn't mean anything anymore. Now he's going to all of a sudden find his drive.
Okay. Paul, we'll throw you in next.
I'm going to go fifth will be Leclerc. Fourth will be Norris. Russell will be third. Verstappen will be second, and Hamilton will be on pole.
Ooh.
Expecting a cold night in Qatar, then, are you?
Well, no, but at the same time, if you look at their qualifying results from last year, the Mercedes were actually the fastest, best of the rest. Max was in a completely different league. He was like 5/10 quicker than anyone else.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to have the same advantage this year, but also Mercedes went well there. So I feel like historically, it's year to year, they're quite good in terms of where they've gone well at and then not gone well at. So we'll see.
I will also say the relative temperatures in Doha in the evenings is around 17 degrees.
Yeah, it's cooler than it is during the day. It does drop quite a lot. There's also a lot of moisture, which is also good for Mercedes. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm going to go fifth place, Fernando Alonso.
Wow.
First.
He's been very good around Qatar.
Also gone missing for the last 3 races, but sure.
I mean, all season, but yeah, sure.
Well, fifth place, Fernando Alonso. Fourth place.
I'll pick up the Spanish while I'm at it.
Fourth place, Max Verstappen.
Yep.
Third will be Carlos Sainz.
Yep.
I just saw where Sainz qualified last year. Oh, I've got this bloody wrong, haven't I? Third will be Charles Leclerc. Second will be Lewis, and first will be Lando. So I've got 5 different teams in the top 5 places.
I'll run that just so people can see it.
Yeah, so Sainz 5th, Russell 4th, Verstappen 3rd, Leclerc, and then Norris for Wajid. I've got Alonso, Verstappen, Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris, and Paul's got Leclerc, Norris, Russell. So the only person to bring Russell into there, Verstappen and Hamilton. Oligarch, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. That makes us, does that reach our total challenge? No, it doesn't quite. We're on 459 followers, so we need one more.
Well, we can go reverse order for the race predictions. Since,
I saw that coming.
Yes, because F1 want to do reverse grid, so let's follow F1's trend.
Okay,
Mr. Magpie, if you'd like to go first.
We're going to go 5th place. Fifth place for George Russell. We're going to go 4. So 5th for George Russell. 4th will be Oscar Piastri.
Mm-hmm.
3rd will be Lando.
Okay.
I'm just working out who I've got left to put in. 2nd will be Charles. 3rd Lando. 2nd Charles Leclerc, and 1st Lewis Hamilton.
You guys expecting a lot? Okay.
Paul,
would you like to go next?
Mine's really easy. 5th will be Russell.
Yep.
4th will be Norris.
Yep.
3rd will be Piastri.
Do you say 3rd will be Piastri?
Yep.
Yep.
Verstappen 2nd.
Yep.
And Hamilton 1st.
Cool.
That's my wild one.
I'm going Hamilton 5th. I'm going Russell in 4th. I'm going. I'm sorry, I've got to edit these while I'm speaking. So
no, it's fine.
I'm going Leclerc. No, I'm going Piastri 3rd. I'm going Verstappen 2nd. And when it matters the most, as he's chasing this world title, with it all on the line, I'm going Lando Norris 1st because it matters so much.
So if you put them along the bottom, Wajid has Hamilton, Russell, Piastri, Verstappen, Norris. So that's Wajid's predictions. Hamilton, Russell, can't say it. Wajid's predictions are Hamilton, Russell, Piastri, Verstappen, Norris. Mine are Russell, Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Hamilton, and Paul's are Russell, Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, Hamilton. Oh, going back to 2021 there, Russell. You guys like Hamilton too much. No way he qualifies ahead of Russell. They make sure he's not as strong. Yeah, we know that, but we think he's leaving, so he probably just gets on with it. Yeah, I don't think there's much else to really predict for Qatar. We've got a sprint.
Since actually I've got one question for you. Since me and Paul think Ferrari are going to win the constructors title, so obviously they have to take it to Abu Dhabi. Do McLaren wrap up the constructor title in your eyes on Sunday?
What's the minimum they can score at Abu Dhabi?
The minute the 20.
What's the maximum Ferrari can get?
63. Well, 63 for the first play if they win all of the first places and the fastest laps, and then for second places, it's 7 plus 36.
No. Sorry, what can
the most they can get is 106.
Yeah. What's the most they can get in Abu Dhabi?
Oh, in Abu Dhabi, the standard
25 plus 18.
So
yes, they have to get to Abu Dhabi at least 43 less than 43 behind.
So that means McLaren only need 20.
They need to outscore by. They need to outscore by like 20 points.
Yeah, 23
by 20 points.
23 points.
I think they might just.
Ahead.
I think they might just. Because McLaren are very good round Qatar.
Yeah, I mean, if they say they finish first and second in the sprint and the race, then they would pick up 58 points. And the most that Ferrari can pick up if they finish third and fourth in both of those is 48.
48.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be sealed in my hearts and hearts, but I think McLaren will go a long way towards sealing it. I don't remember seeing a Ferrari performance around Qatar.
No, I don't either, and that's part of their worry of winning the. I think they can still win the constructors, but I think they're gonna need to finish ahead of McLaren in points haul over the weekend to then take it to the last race and it to be even. I think they did have it closer than probably 12 to 15 points.
I was literally going to say it needs to be 10 points going into Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I think 12 to 15 is the absolute maximum they can be behind heading into Abu Dhabi. Otherwise, the gap is too big for them to. Even if they won and finished second, they still can't take enough points to beat McLaren if they finish third and fourth.
Yeah, it's a weird one in Abu Dhabi because I don't think we've had a Ferrari win, and I don't think we've had a McLaren. Well, we've had McLaren wins, but we're going back to Lewis days.
Yeah, I was going to say that for a very long time.
It's almost like the worst track for them both to have at the end of the season because they're normally fighting over 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th race cars. So it's going to be interesting to see. I will say that.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say in Qatar, I do think there'll be a couple of surprises. You know, Alpine have got podiums there recently. So maybe we could see a Gasly or knock-on up there. Hulkenberg, maybe. You know, we could see.
I think Hulkenberg qualified 7th last year in Qatar.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you have to give me now come off the page, don't you? Just as I've gone off the page. Because it was early in the year as well. It was in October. So
yeah, it was, yeah.
Qualifying Hulkenberg was 15th.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay, maybe I was thinking of something else
then. Yeah, and he did not finish the sprint from 11th. Oh no, that's 11 laps he did. I don't know. Anyway. I think that's about it, isn't it? I think we've covered everything. Remember, if you do want a job with the FAA, reply to Paul's advert and please make sure that you leave your name and number. Don't tell them that you got it from here. That's constructors' points. Sorry, go on.
Oh, you can. Either way.
Or you can. I mean, if it gets used,
I don't think it's making any difference to our ticket allocation for next year, is it?
It helps the it helps the channel grow.
But I mean, let's put it this way: we didn't get offered tickets to the 75th anniversary start.
Oh like no! I'm so upset. I really wanted to go to that. It looks so good, and everything about it is so wonderful. I'm so sad I won't be able to go to that.
But as I look over the list of countries that we're flying to next year, just for myself personally, I've not done anyone at Liberty Media. I've not done Australia, China, or Japan. I've been Azerbaijan.
We're doing that, are we?
And Singapore, because I will have gone to Mexico by the time this rolls around. So if tickets are available for any of them and you want to send them to Motorsport Magpie, by all means.
Yeah, I won't be going.
I haven't been to Mexico City, and I haven't been to Azerbaijan, and that's it.
Yeah, so there we go.
Oh, Japan. I haven't been to Japan either. So
do you really want me to do this?
No, I was just.
Okay, here we go. I've got the calendar in front of me. I haven't been to Australia. I haven't been to China. I haven't been to Japan.
Is it easy to tell us what you have been to, David?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I have been to Barcelona, but not to the track. Well, I have been to the Spanish Grand Prix track, the old one on top of the mountain.
Have you been to Spain?
Yes.
That counts.
I've been to Britain.
Right.
And I've been to Italy.
Brilliant. Okay.
That's it.
So yeah,
I've done enough for all of us. It's fine.
And to be fair, when I went to Italy, I was still absolutely nowhere near Emilia-Romagna or Monza. So...
Yeah. Well, so Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix is interesting because it actually isn't technically it's in Italy. So when it was the San Marino Grand Prix, and people are like, "Oh, I've never been to San Marino." Doesn't matter. It's not even in San Marino. It's fine.
The San Marino is a very nice place.
Yes,
it's a lovely place. Yeah, very lovely place.
Then we throw out there what was the 1997 Nürburgring Grand Prix called?
It was called the European Grand
European
Prix.
Grand Prix.
No, it
wasn't
wasn't.
No, hang on.
It was the
87
Luxembourg Grand Prix.
It was the Luxembourg Grand Prix.
Oh,
Yes, it was.
yeah.
It's a bit like
Wait.
what was the 1979?
Oh,
no,
God.
1982 Grand Prix at Dijon called.
That wasn't the French, was it? It was...
No. 1982 Dijon Grand Prix was called, and it's really ironic.
I don't know. Wasn't it like the
It was called
France?
the Swiss Grand Prix, which,
Swiss,
by the
that
way,
was
had
it.
banned motorsport since 1955.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
yeah, it was the Swiss Grand Prix held at Dijon in France. It was an
But-
excuse because they had 7 drivers from France in F1 at the time to have another Grand Prix, which is exactly why we had the Luxembourg Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, because we had all these German drivers, including Mr. Schumacher, of course.
And which is why the reason we currently have 45 races in the United States.
Exactly, because if we
Oh.
didn't have 57 races in the US, it's because we need all the sponsorship money to come in
Yeah,
and the FBI to stop investigating us.
In 2026, we'll actually be racing in every single state in the United States.
We will. We'll have the Austin Grand Prix, the Texas Grand Prix, the
I can't
South
wait.
Carolina Grand
Sorry,
Prix.
the
It'll be
50.
brilliant.
I said 51 says 56. I can't wait for the Alaskan Grand Prix.
Brilliant. I mean, one in every state, right? 52.
Well,
Do
they
we
moan
also
about
get
how cold
Guam?
it was in Vegas.
Do we get the Guam Grand Prix then as well? Would that be a good thing? I don't know. Around the military base, that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
The Guantanamo Bay
Grand
Grand Prix.
Well, the marshals are already there dressed in orange.
Well,
Oh, dear.
What a calendar we could have in future. We're obviously
We
going to
should
go
come up
through
as
that.
part of the Christmas show. We should come up with our own version of the calendar where we would like the Grand Prix teams to race. There you go. There's another one.
the Bermuda Triangle Grand
Bermuda
Prix.
Triangle Grand Prix. I would totally have that on my calendar for
Yeah.
sure.
The
Yeah,
wild-
London Norris could go missing there as well.
I was going to say McLaren. You said that. I don't know it.
Right, before we get absolutely banned from talking about F1 forever, which it could very much happen before the end of this season.
And if we had a Palestinian Palestinian Grand Prix, the Israelis would take over because it says on their land.
Oh, we couldn't. I told you we're going to get banned. Right, Wajid, thank you for joining us. He's not going to be
And
able
on
to
that
reply.
note,
Yeah, on that note.
on that bombshell,
Oh,
It's
let's
time.
do some more stuff while we're at it.
in terms of Wajid, don't look at the helmet there. It's over there. You can follow him on Burnt Out Travels on Instagram,
Yes, thank you.
and he is oddly on Twitter moaning about Manchester United every now and again.
And the Baltimore Ravens recently.
And we also won't talk about West Ham. Paul, thank you for joining us as well.
Oh yeah.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Chance.
Yeah, so Wajid on Instagram, a little bit on Twitter, but he replies on Instagram. Thank you for being with us. Paul,
I'm on
thank you for being
Discord.
with
I'm
us.
going to pop my Discord link in the channel. There you go. It's in the Twitch channel, right?
Yeah, so because I don't have Discord, you can go join Paul's. But he's also on Twitch and anything else.
No, just Twitch.
No,
I
it.
did join Blue Sky this week, but I haven't used it. I mean, it's one of those, like, it looks a bit like Twitter, and hopefully it's a bit more like Twitter, but
No,
it's probably
I-
another
I-
cesspit, right? I don't know.
I saw it and I went, it's going to be another Reels. Was it Reels or
Threads.
something? But Threads,
Threads,
that's it.
Yeah,
And it's just not going to take off.
died
so,
on its ass.
we will be.
Yeah,
leaving that one
fortunately,
to
though,
it.
it does seem like people are leaving Twitter, so I don't know if it will be alive that much longer, which is good.
Well, who knows, to be honest. I'm just trying to see if we've got anybody on under the category of, well, it won't be under the category of F1. We need a tag of F1. We're going to raise somebody, which I can't type. So there we go. Let's see. Bet we're all playing the F1 game.
No, it's Champions League night type.
Yeah, I was going to say it's Champions League. Arsenal were 2-0 up, 3-0 up at
They
half
won.
time.
Well, they?
They won 5-1.
I don't know what the Champions League is.
Did Man City win? I don't know.
No, they bottled a 3-0 lead.
Have they really?
Yeah, they finished 3-3.
Wow.
90th minute.
Wow.
Let's
That's
see.
astonishing.
Okay, let's just go to iRacing because that's normally a good category to go on.
But yeah, please people, like and subscribe. Thank you very much to the new followers on Twitch this evening. Really appreciate all your support.
Yeah.
Is much appreciated. We'll be back probably this time. No, not this time, next week. We'll be back roughly same time next week as we start the podcast for the review of the Qatar. And I think it'll be a preview at the same time because I think we go straight to Abu Dhabi, don't we? Unless there's another.
Yes, we do. Unless we've suddenly got the dates wrong, which is not going to be hardly surprising, to be honest. I'll be honest. I cannot find anybody worth raiding. I haven't got anybody on at the moment.
I can. Well, this bottom split is currently.
Oh, is bottom split on?
He's on / bottom split.
We can.
Which is always a bit fun.
Let me find
so he's on Twitch. I don't know if he's on YouTube as well.
Oh no, we don't raid. You don't raid on YouTube.
Do we not? Okay, fine.
You don't have. There's somebody called Chickens Racing. That'd be quite fun.
We're gonna lose whoever's watching by the time we pick who's rating.
Oh, this always happens. Don't worry. Don't worry. Sometimes I just decide not to, so we'll leave it there anyway before we suddenly find somebody. But thank you everybody for the interaction today, as always. We are now, just to let you know, 250 followers on YouTube. So we have finally hit that. I mean, it's took us a while. I think we started this year on 239. It's been a bit of pulling teeth to try and get people to follow. But if you can hit, and it's great that the watch time is going up and everything. So we really do appreciate it because it means that it's working.
And this entire podcast will be getting split just to make it easier for
me. Maybe.
Just been Wajid raging about Norris for about 45 minutes.
Yeah, can't wait for that. I'm sure that's not going to come back and bite me.
Thank God that's not too short, or we could have done a short. It becomes a whole new video. Anyway, we're going to see you very, very shortly, and see you after the Qatar Grand Prix. Remember, there's a sprint, so qualifying on Friday. See you soon.